talk about that painful process.
Oh yeah, I think most people can relate, right? Because if you've ever tried to introduce a workout, regimen, that 30, 60 days when you're looking in the mirror and it's like, I'm not even seeing results. Like I'm doing all this work and I'm not seeing the results. It's demoralizing, right? Or when you diet, right? If you're lucky, you might lose a pound a week. Who can see that, if you're overweight? So it's extremely demoralizing. And that's, I think, where the coaching model can really be helpful, because those are the phases where people need to persevere. They're close to getting the result that they want. Usually when people throw in the towel, it's not quite implemented the habit. They're not seeing the results yet, so they're demoralized and they give up.
I'm Candice Ridardi, and this is Gratitude Geek. Today, I'm joined by business-to-business sales expert turned mindset coach, Josh Flower. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, Candice. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm really excited to chat B2B because, number one, I don't get to talk about it a lot, and that is actually my zone of genius. I'm actually, my 30-year sales history is in B2B. And I also run, are you familiar with BNI?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay. So I run a BNI power team with members from all across North America, and it's focused on business to business. So people who have business to business companies, or
Yes.
do business to business stuff, are in the power team. So it's what I focus on throughout the day. It's in my life, it's what I focus on, but the people who come on the podcast don't often talk about it. So it is one of my favorite topics because it's exciting. It's where the money is if you're in sales. It's a lot easier to make a full-time living in sales if you're doing B2B. So I would like to talk about that, even though I know it's not really what your coaching practice is. So tell us your story. So you've closed millions of dollars worth of deals over your 20-year sales career. How did you develop your sales skills?
Yeah. Thank you for that. And you bet, it's actually approaching 25 years. I'm dating myself a little bit, but I'm 24 years in the game in B2B for most of that time. And it is really different, as you say, from a lot of the sales conversations that are happening online right now, which are more about high ticket sales or, consultant to business, that sort of thing, where you're selling consulting services and that sort of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but B2B sales, and specifically I sell software and services, like fairly complex services to businesses. It's a different animal. There are more stakeholders. The sales cycles are longer, and there's just a lot more going on. So I'm really excited to dig into that with you. How I got my start, Candice. So I was working a dead end job. I think like a lot of people that get into sales, and I wasn't happy with my income level. And again, dating myself, but I read a newspaper ad that said, do you like the idea of unlimited income? Something like that.
Okay, hold on. Let's clarify for the audience. A newspaper is a periodical that came out basically every day that had articles and advertisements, much like a website does today. Okay, sorry, go on.
That's it, on newsprint, and you picked it up in a box on the street, and then that's what you read on the way to work. So it was crazy, but I saw an ad that really enticed me, right? The promise of major income. And I thought, let me investigate this. And I had always been told by family that maybe I had a bit of a salesy personality or an aptitude for it. So I guess this employer saw that in me and hired me and offered to train me. And sure enough, it was really up my alley. So I really never looked back from that point in time. But my story is an interesting one, Candice, because shortly after getting into sales, I suffered a really debilitating back injury and dealt with basically a lifetime of chronic back pain and, lack of mobility and other challenges. That led to me getting into all sorts of vices like alcohol, marijuana, other things that I tangled with throughout my career. And I'm at the advanced age now of 51, and I've solved most of these problems in my life. So as you mentioned, I've moved into mindset coaching to teach people everything that I've learned in my life and in my career. But deep in my heart and in my soul, I'm a B2B sales guy. So.
Okay, so life has changed in the last 25 years. I mean, I mentioned I started my sales career over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd have to do the math. I have to do the math. I might be 35. I'm older than you. Not by much though.
You don't look it.
Thank you. So I actually entered sales in an industry that I was not comfortable in at all, but I was good at sales. And so I ended up managing millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in outdoor equipment. So I sold outdoor equipment, one of the biggest brands in the industry today, but back then it was a smaller brand. It was all about creating relationships with the clients. And that seems counterintuitive because B2B, you're talking about selling to businesses. But relationships matter regardless of whether or not it's one on one or business to business. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they certainly do. And regardless of what you're selling, I think you have to take that approach, unless it's literally a 20-minute sale, in which case you want to accelerate it, obviously, and you want to have good vibes with the person in order to move towards the close. But anytime you're talking about ongoing sales or a sale that's going to take any period of time, there needs to be a relationship angle to that. And relationship doesn't mean that we make a whole bunch of small talk at the beginning, so that we can, agree that we like the same sport or that sort of thing. What it is you need to communicate to this person a few different things, right? Number one, that you're competent and you understand what it is that you're selling and that you have a desire to learn about their problems. Once they feel that and that they can start to trust you, then they've got to, really feel that you're trustworthy and competent and you're only going to try and sell them because you think you can help them. So once people feel that, that's where the seeds of a good relationship can begin. And then depending on the complexity of the sale, you may need to do that with a number of different stakeholder groups. And so it's really the same process of seeking to understand them, understanding how you may be able to help them and then communicating that to them.
Well, and it doesn't matter if you offer a service or a product, or it's a you're selling to them, or there it's a retail situation like I was in where I was selling to the stores and the stores would sell to the clients. You
Mm-hmm.
still have to solve a problem, right? In the outdoor industry, the problem is I'm going hiking for 2 weeks and I need a backpack big enough to put all my gear in. The store knows that that's the problem, so they need to buy the backpack for the client so that they have it available for the client to shop. When you're selling a service, the problem is this doesn't work and I need it to work, or I need this system to work, or I need these two software programs to talk to each other. But there's always a problem, and identifying the problem is paramount. It's the most important thing. You can't sell you can't sell a solution if there isn't a problem.
Indeed. And, there's like a little bit of a nuance here that can be a real challenge, right? So if you're selling something that has some uniqueness to it, then you can really dig into like, what are the specific problems that this prospect is dealing with? And like, what are the unique ways that my organization may be able to solve them? But when you're in a more retail type of environment, oftentimes you're dealing with commodity situations, right? Where I could buy this backpack from 5 different suppliers. So why should I do business with you? That's actually when I think there needs to be even a deeper relationship and more of a sort of a warm feeling with the supplier to allow you to win. Certainly you need to have a competitive product, competitive pricing, but relationship is even more important in those commodity situations. So I'm sure you found that where you were like, yeah, like I've really got to go above and beyond my competition to make sure that my stuff's on the shelves here, right?
Well, it's all about teaching too. You got to teach your customer what they're
What
buying.
they Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not teaching them, they don't know how to sell it. I have a great example. There was a wind jacket that was released one year that was brand new. It was a new technology, new fabric, and it didn't get marketed correctly,
Mhm.
and it didn't get trained correctly. And a lot of stores bought it thinking it was a rain jacket, not a wind jacket. And then we started to get the phone calls. My customers said they went running in this jacket and they got drenched from the rain. Well, it's because it's a wind jacket, not a rain jacket. So that's a situation where the education didn't happen. And that happened from, because in a manufacturing business, you have the product developers and then you have the sales team. And if the product developers don't educate the sales team, then the sales team can't educate the end user or the sell, the client that they have. So there's like so much communication going on there. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, 100%. And that you're right. I think The best organizations are the ones where there's very clear communication. And incidentally, the communication needs to work the opposite way as well, right? Sales needs to have that forum to be able to say, hey, this is what the clients are actually asking for. This is what, their customers are looking for. So having an open line of communication that is often facilitated by the executive layer, right, is like, we want to make sure we're pulling these ideas from the field and getting them into the products or the services that we sell is really, really important. But 100% as a salesperson, I need to have confidence in the product. I need to know what I'm selling and I need to believe in it. If I don't believe in it, and I'm sure you've had this in your career, most salespeople have, where you find yourself in a situation where you are not a believer in the product or the service or the ability for your organization to fulfill. And that is a terrible place to be because you've still got to do your thing, but you don't feel good about it. And I would advise anyone in sales, if you are not a full believer in what you're selling, find something else,
Yeah.
make it your mission to find something else.
And people can tell when you're not a believer. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's evident. It's so evident. I think that would, but let's go back to the wind jacket there for a second, because that was one of
Mhm.
those instances of it's a new fabric. It was new technology, but was there a market? Was there a need for this technology? And it was a situation where we were selling a product that really wasn't wanted or needed at that time.
I mean, it sounds cool, but that's the thing. Like sometimes it takes bringing something to market to realize that, yeah, maybe the market isn't there. People at the very least expect that it'll be water resistant,
Yeah.
and if it's not, then okay, we've got to move on. But you said something really important, Candace, that I want to really, beat the drum on. And that is that people can tell, like, we are intuitive beings. We know when someone is being authentic. We know as much as we like to joke around that we can be taken advantage of, and there's situations where maybe you don't read a situation properly, but by and large, people can tell. And so if you just go in there being authentic, selling stuff that you believe in, and selling from the heart, I think that's going to win you a lot more deals than you may think. So find something that you can get behind.
Yeah, that selling from the heart is important. And it really does mean that you stand behind what you're saying and what you're selling. And so do you think sales is a bad word?
I think it's, I don't think it's a bad word. I don't think you think it's a bad word, but I think there are a lot of people in the market that think that it's a bad word. And I'll tell you why I think that is. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. But I think there's, a long line of salespeople that are in it for themselves, right? They're trying to sell because they want to make money, or it's their job. And I think the truest form of sales is a person that is a problem solver, somebody that wants to understand problems. And that's what I go into sales situations is I want to understand, what are your problems? Let me understand them as deeply as possible. If I think I can help you, then I'm going to sell like crazy. But I'm not going to sell until I understand your problems. And I truly believe in my heart and in my guts that we can actually solve that problem for you. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Like if you operate with that way out in the world or in the market, that you're interested in knowing the problems that people are having and seeing if you can actually address those problems, and then convincing them that they need to invest to address those problems, I think that's a really noble thing to do.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I started that power team, that business to business power team. Within a networking, in any net, it doesn't matter what the networking organization is. I just happen to be a member of BNI. Doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what networking organization you belong to. Business to consumer tends to be the focus of most of the people in the room. So I started the power team because business to business is a special niche within networking, and we
It
tend
is.
to be by ourselves if that's what our focus is. And so by bringing together this group of 150 professionals from around North America, we now have a group who are all aligned with business to business. That's how our target markets are. And so it's a lot easier for us to pass referrals to each other because we have the same type of clients. Not always. I mean, when you say business to business, that's huge. We could be talking about anything from a retail store to a manufacturer to, a
Oh
software
yeah.
as a service company. So business to business is huge, but it's also not. It's not as huge. And it's completely different than business to consumer. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it really is. And the thing, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of different varieties or, sort of flavors of what B2B is. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's you're trying to solve business problems. And so you're dealing with like executives or stakeholders at the business that are dealing with a particular challenge area for that business, right? So just to give you an example, the types of solutions that I sell are, we've got a training platform. So, and you mentioned the manufacturing industry. There are certain industries that have extreme compliance requirements around things like safety, for example. So manufacturing would be one, aerospace, defense, where it's like really critical that people are doing their safety related training and that there's a record of that. And it's not just so that we've got we're ticking the box. No, we need to make sure that people's lives are not in jeopardy when they're in hazardous situations, right? So it's really important. And businesses are very invested in making sure that that's done properly. So they need a training system that matches up with the need. They may need training that's more effective than what they've been using in the past because there's too many safety incidents. So we need to increase awareness on particular issues. So we need to design training that's going to be effective. So that's just one use case, but at least the company that I'm with, we sell into a dozen plus different industries that all have different requirements.
Well, and technology is moving at the speed of light, and so as new technology comes out, equipment is upgraded, and then the safety requirements around that equipment change. So training never stops. You need to always be training on whatever is going on. New people come in, old people who've been around for 20 or 30 years might want to keep doing it the old way, but they're the ones that are going to lose their finger, right?
Right? Exactly.
You've got to follow the new rules because this is different. My husband is a world-class custom furniture builder, and he injured himself once being stupid in his own shop, even though he knew better.
Yeah.
So training on anything is so, especially now that AI has changed the game for everything.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I'll tell you, like another example that I could point out is sales training, right? So if you're working in an environment where your company is selling and developing new products and services, or as you mentioned, like the products and services are changing, they're evolving as time goes on. You need to keep your sales force up to date on what are the product specs? What are the specific, features and benefits that the market cares about? So there's this sort of ongoing need and evolving need for training to keep changing. And that's just one tiny area of software, right? There are all sorts of different types of software platforms. And then you get out of software, there's just a million B2B type use cases. But you said it, Candace, there's similarities in that we're not selling direct to consumers, or we're not selling direct to entrepreneurs. We're selling business to business, and there's unique challenges that only B2B salespeople understand. So I think that sounds really interesting that you've got that BNI group, and I'm sure it's really relevant despite, I'm sure, a pretty diverse audience, right?
It is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crossover. I also run a wellness power team because I was asked to start one. And I said yes, because I find that if you say yes to opportunities, opportunities come to you. Anyway, it's a much different environment. There is very little crossover in the B2B power team, and there's 150 people in it. Whereas the wellness power team, there's like 4 people from the same company times 6, right?
Yeah.
So the good news is it's not, I run it very open. You can come whenever you want. It's not category exclusive. The only requirement is that you are in BNI. That's the only requirement. But yeah, there is very little crossover. And what I love about it is I get to learn about all these neat new companies, things I didn't know existed. Cool. You know?
Really cool, right?
Yeah. And then when you have all that in your pocket, you can offer your clients even better. Hey, I don't offer this service, but I know someone who does, and it looks like you need it, right? That is gold. It's gold when you can do that, because it makes you look like a superstar. You're not going to make any money, but you're going to help me find the person who will help me with this problem. Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. And that's just a good role to play, like a connector in that way. And as you said, I think sometimes just doing good things happen. Like, if you believe in the force of karma, being helpful to other people can only come back to you, right? And then that becomes part of your character. Right. You're the kind of person that looks to help even when you're not getting paid. Like, I think that's beautiful.
Well, that's the law of reciprocity.
100%. Yeah, you said it right.
The law of reciprocity.
Yeah. It is a mouthful.
Which is karma and the law of reciprocity are the same thing.
Yeah.
They are. It's
Yeah.
just different names for the same idea. But the law of reciprocity is if I do something nice for someone, something nice is going to happen to me. And it doesn't mean that they're going to do it for me. Something nice is going to happen for me.
Yeah.
Could take once I can track it one at one, and I've said this, told this story on the show before, so I won't tell it again now. But I can track the law of reciprocity over the course of 10 years for something really groovy that happened to me. Took 10 years for it
Really.
to happen, but I know it happened because of something I did
Yeah.
10
Oh,
years
I
later.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ripples.
Well, yeah,
Ripples.
you just got to be patient, right? And so I think it's just like do good, right? Like do good out there. And honestly, this is one of the things that like, so on my coaching practice, I help people with all sorts of areas like mindset, habits, that sort of thing. But sales is another area that people are curious about. And often they'll say things like, oh, I need to learn sales skills. And it's like, okay, well, we can talk about, I've got a laundry list of different sales skills you'd want to get better at. But really, if I'm to take someone and really try and raise their game, it starts really at the foundation layer of like, why are you even in sales? Like, what are your true desires and motivations? Like, what are you driven by? What are your values? Let's look at your belief system. Like, how is that maybe getting in the way of what you're trying to accomplish in sales? So it's more, and I think this is a metaphor for all life. It's more about optimizing you and optimizing the very deepest layers of who you are if you want to become a better performer at something, sales or anything really. Yeah.
Mindset is the foundation of everything. If you don't believe you're going to be good at it, you're never going to be good at it. But if you believe, I've told this story. I probably mentioned this within the last 3 episodes, but I'm going to mention it again. When before Stevie Nicks got her big break, she would walk into rooms with musicians and executives thinking, don't you know who I am? You should know who I am. Don't you know who I am? She had that mindset before she was even famous that she was famous. And she's one of the
Love that.
biggest female rock stars
Oh
of
yeah.
all time, right?
A legend.
Because
Yeah.
she knew before. The same thing with Jim Carrey. He wrote himself a check for $1 million before he'd even really had any success. He wrote himself a check for $1 million. I think that's an exercise everybody. I don't know if anybody has checks anymore.
I got a checkbook over
Do
there.
you?
Yeah.
I might. I don't know. But putting that $1 million bill on the wall and looking at it every day, or just looking at it once and tucking it away and finding it later, it plants a seed.
Well, you know what, Candace? Like, so I love that you've actually sort of talking about this because what I really advise so with my coaching model, regardless of whether it's sales or whatever, it goes through these layers that I want people to get clear on, right? Like if you know how you're motivated, then you can build from that, right? And the ultimate goal of my coaching process is to get someone to have a document that basically is like who they are, like I am, and it's like all of your motivations, all of your beliefs. And so we attack the beliefs, right? And we deal with those limiting beliefs and turn them into positive or supportive beliefs, right down through like, what are you actually doing? Who are you serving? Because once you have that picture, like in Stevie's case, it was a picture of a famous rock star, right? With Jim Carrey, it was like a rich comedian. Once you have that clear in your mind, well, number one, you're going to find the right opportunities for you that support that, but you're going to be able to dig in when times are hard. And you know it, I know it. There's thankless moments. There's moments where you want to quit, where you want to tap. But when you've got that vision of what you're building towards, that's when you're going to hang in there and you're going to keep going. You're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to get back into the arena, And so a lot of people need that. I've found is they need that clarity. We have so many things. Society's telling us the things that we want. Oh, you want a Lambo or you want this or you want that. Most people don't want that. Most people want things that are unique to them. So let's get really clear on what that is so that you are truly motivated and not just because of some silly car that you think that you want, but you really don't want, if that makes sense,
Well, a lot of people in sales, a lot of sales trainers try to teach you to start with your ideal client. Who is your ideal client? Who is your ideal client? But if you don't know who you are,
Mhm.
I know exactly who I am. I'm an awesome salesperson. I mean, I know exactly who I am, but if you don't know who you are, you can't project and you can't pretend because people know when you're faking. People know when you're lying. They know. You might be able to fool a couple of people, but people know when you're lying. They can see it written all over you. You show up and, I mean, I always show up as my authentic self. So, my sweater's a little wrinkly, but I work at home. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
I always show up as my authentic self. But that's because I am very comfortable and confident in myself, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they put on airs and they dress in clothes that are too tight, and for women especially, they wear heels that they can barely walk in because they think that that's what they're supposed to do. When I show up with no makeup and in my wrinkled sweater and I get crap done,
Yeah.
right? So you've got to be comfortable in who you are. I'm not saying that you can't be comfortable in tight clothes and high heels. I'm just saying that sometimes people use that as a facade
Yes.
to project themselves as something else. You're a guy, so you
Oh,
might not get it, but
yeah, but men, I mean, like I had plenty of phases in my career where I was wearing suits and I was wearing polished shoes and all of that. And it's the same sort of thing, right? We're playing sort of dress up in the professional environment. And again, not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but if that doesn't align with who you are, there's an inauthentic element to that, right? I was
yeah.
drawn to that actually. Like I was always, when I was a teenager, I'd get GQ magazine and I thought the suits were so cool and everything. So I had to go through that phase of my life. But now I'm in the t-shirt phase of my life. It's a nice t-shirt, but that's where I'm at.
But honestly, there are men who feel more comfortable in a suit. That
Yeah,
that is
they
the
do.
that is the skin that they want to wear and that they feel most comfortable wearing. And there are men who feel more comfortable in a pair of sweatpants, right? And that is the suit that they want to wear and that they feel comfortable in. And they have different jobs. And we need
Yeah.
that in the world.
Yeah, we
You know,
certainly do.
Not
We
everybody
do.
can be the investment banker. We do need people
No.
to be the plumber. you know.
That's it. And but this is the thing, right? Like you're free to define what that is for you, and your goal is to get in touch with who you really are, right? And that's really why I got into the coaching side of things, because Candace, I've got a successful career, right? Like I've been doing this for 25 years almost, and made plenty of money in my sales career. But I just got to this point. I was actually approaching my 50th birthday where I thought, am I just going to keep getting better at sales? Is that really my life story? And I thought, I've learned a lot about becoming more authentic. And I've realized that I actually want to help people. That's more important to me than, ringing up bigger and bigger sales every year. And so let me transition into this new career, despite having a successful career, doubling my workload really to do it, because I'm doing both right now. But it's because I was called to help people, you
But
know?
you said something a little bit earlier that we haven't touched on yet, and you said habits. And habits are like
Yeah.
systems. If you have good habits and good systems, you can do a lot in a little bit of time.
A lot more than you think. Yeah.
So talk about that.
Yeah. Habits are huge. And, you know, first let me talk about what my habits used to be. Okay. I used to sleep in, pour a cup of coffee, get down to my desk at the last possible minute. I've worked from home for over 20 years, so way before the pandemic. And then I'd fuel myself on coffee and a poor diet throughout the day. Wouldn't really exercise because I had the bad back. So that kind of got in the way of consistent training. I'd pour a drink at the end of the day. I might smoke a little bit of weed, might get into some porn at some point, like just all the bad habits, right? All the pleasure chasing habits. And I toyed, but like most of us, right? I tried to get in shape. I gave up alcohol. I cleaned up my diet for a couple of months, but you know, I just never really caught traction. It wasn't until my late 40s again where I thought, it's now or never, Josh. Like, are you going to turn it around and really take control of your life? And I was able in a really short period of time to ditch all the bad habits, introduce all the good habits. And I realized, yeah, I can work a hell of a lot harder. I can do more work. I can be happier. So people would be surprised at how much they could actually do if they can fix their habits. And the good news is habits, good or bad, are easy to execute once they're implemented. So if you've got bad habits in your life, yeah, great. That means you know how to execute on habits. We just need to switch them up, go through a painful process of change, yes. But on the other side of that, it gets easier and easier and easier each day to execute those good habits.
So talk about that painful process.
Oh yeah, I think most people can relate, right? Because if you've ever tried to introduce a workout, regimen, that 30, 60 days when you're looking in the mirror and it's like, I'm not even seeing results. Like I'm doing all this work and I'm not seeing the results, it's demoralizing, right? Or when you diet, right? If you're lucky, you might lose a pound a week. Who can see that, if you're overweight? So it's extremely demoralizing. And that's, I think, where the coaching model can really be helpful, because those are the phases where people need to persevere. They're close to getting the result that they want. Usually when people throw in the towel, it's not quite implemented the habit. They're not seeing the results yet, so they're demoralized and they give up. If what I tell people is stick with something for actually 90 days, like you hear all sorts of data out there, like it's the 2 weeks or 30 days or 60 days. 90 days is a period where you will actually entrench the habit and start seeing results. So that's what I help my clients with. It's like, if they're fresh and they're dealing with a lot of challenges, we'll tackle it very step by step, like introduce one habit that we call a non-negotiable, and we get them to execute on that consistently. If they've got more control in their lives, we can do more, introduce a bunch of new habits, drop some old habits, and then just persevere for the right amount of time. But yeah.
Is it easier to introduce a new habit or drop an old habit?
I'd say it's easier to introduce a new habit, in my opinion, than dropping those old habits, because and let's talk about vices, right? Like, let's talk about, say, alcohol, naughty food, or, like marijuana is a big one for people these days. Like, these things have a positive to them, right? They make us feel good. It's a reward system that we've built up in our minds. Like, hey, I work hard, or I'm doing this, or I'm being a good parent, or whatever. I need a reward on my Friday evening that I can look forward to. So removing that is extremely challenging for most people, right? So I think that that's harder personally, but I'm sure, people probably have a mixed opinion on that. For some people, introducing a workout program might seem a lot harder than, dropping the pizza on Friday night, I don't know. What do you think?
So I have a shoulder injury that I have been working with a physical therapist on for a few months now.
Yeah, sorry to hear that.
My husband and I like to go for walks on the beach when it snows. There's something I don't know if you have a big lake near you where the ice Lake Michigan gets iced up, and sometimes the ice on the lake is like iceberg sized, right?
Yeah.
Huge. And it's really fun, and it's fun to climb on it, it's fun to walk along, and I really enjoy the beach more when it's snowy than in the summer.
I
Anyway,
love
last winter, we went for a walk on the beach in the snow, and I could barely make it because my shoulder froze up, my arm went to sleep, and I was in so much pain I could barely walk from a shoulder injury. All right.
Shoulder's complicated.
It is. Well,
Yeah.
it's the joint here that's the problem. Anyway,
Okay.
it took us like a month and a half to figure out where exactly the problem was coming from. And this was 9 months after the debilitating walk that I couldn't finish walking on I couldn't do something that I loved doing because I was in so much pain in my shoulder. It's so strange. You can't go for a walk because your shoulder hurts. It's the weirdest thing. Anyway, back to where we're going. It took us 6 weeks to figure out exactly what the problem was, and then 3 weeks of excruciating pain in therapy, and now we're at the point where I'm feeling really good. And my husband and I took a little walk in the woods, and it was fantastic, and I'm almost better. But it was painful. It was painful to get back to where I was feeling good enough where I could actually go for a walk and do the things that I love doing.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing for people, right? And like, you and I were middle-aged people, right? And so when these
Well, speak
things
for
happen,
yourself.
but I know for me with my back, like it derailed me for so long that introducing like consistency around exercise was a really foreign concept for me, and I was so used to having chronic pain as well. So to have that go away like over time was just like such a beautiful thing. But once people start to get up, closer to 50, that chronic pain, that's the thing. You wake up in the morning, you get out of bed and you're like, ankle hurts, hip hurts, shoulder hurts, neck hurts.
Yeah.
And so that just makes it even tougher. But what I would say to people is you got to start introducing those healthy habits now, because it's not going to get easier when you're approaching 60, when you're approaching 70. We got to get the habits entrenched now.
Yeah. And it's going to hurt.
Yeah, it's
but
going to
it'll
hurt.
feel a lot better afterwards.
And that's the thing. Like, so here's something to think about, Candace, So I've just been really thinking about this lately, so I want to share it with you and your audience here. The thing that makes introducing good habits so difficult is that good habits are growth oriented, right? So we're trying to grow. So we're introducing a good habit of maybe we're going to read a book every night, or we're going to do the exercise, or we're going to wake up a little bit earlier and have some prioritization of us first thing in the morning, like run a morning process. That's growth oriented, but growth is uncomfortable. Growth is even painful,
They
right?
call it growing pains for a reason.
Exactly. But that's the thing. If you introduce growth as your sort of mantra, what you're saying to the universe is, hey, I'm intentionally introducing discomfort and pain into my life. But there's two beautiful payoffs to this. The first is that you get a result long term. If you persevere with that, you're going to get smarter, or you're going to get stronger, or your body's going to feel better, you're going to get closer in touch with yourself with that morning process. So that's benefit number one. But the other benefit is that you're going to, in the regular moments of your life, they're going to be more enjoyable because you're choosing to introduce discomfort, sporadically throughout the day. So just standing in the line at the grocery store is going to be a more enjoyable experience, because that's not a growth moment. That is just I'm standing in the line at the grocery store.
And I'm
Whereas,
standing in line at the grocery store and my shoulder doesn't hurt, or my hip doesn't hurt, or my back doesn't hurt.
because you're
And
doing the right
yeah,
things.
but a lot of times you don't notice when it doesn't hurt. So
That's
you
right. You
just
almost
keep,
take it for granted,
yeah,
like,
you just keep going when and then you realize, oh, I don't hurt, you know?
but those moments are beautiful when they
Yeah.
happen, you're like,
But it's the
wow, like,
same with your mind too. You don't really notice when you're happy. You only really notice when you're sad or angry.
well, and I'll tell you something, like the opposite of being growth oriented, right, is something that I call pleasure seeking. And pleasure seeking, what you're doing when you pleasure seek, what you're saying is, like, I want something, right? I want food, or I want entertainment, or I want, alcohol, whatever, substances. But what you're saying is that the present moment is not good enough, and I need something to enhance my life. And that enhancement is fleeting. So you're constantly living in this sort of state of yearning and dissatisfaction with the current moment. Whereas when you decide that I'm going to be a growth oriented person, you're doing the opposite. You're saying, I'm introducing discomfort right now intentionally. One has a positive impact on the moment, the other has a negative impact on the moment. So I would tell people, get off the pleasure seeking pathway, get on the growth pathway, even though it seems uncomfortable, seems foolish. You're going to be happier. I promise you.
So it doesn't matter if you're in the growth mode or you're in the pleasure seeking mode. In both instances, you're still suffering from
Suffering.
some sort of pain. And in Buddhism, elimination of
Yes.
suffering is the ultimate path to nirvana. I'm not. I might have that wrong.
It sounds beautiful, man.
Don't quote me on that. I'm not an expert in Buddhism. I just know that suffering is the foundation of Buddhism, and release of suffering is the outcome, the desired outcome.
But you know what's interesting? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but the thing is, like, when you choose to introduce suffering, but again, it's not suffering like masochistic suffering, right? Where you're just like, I'm going to hurt myself. It's the suffering of growth. And if you really think about, like, what is life? Life's driving impetus is growth, right? Like all forms of life, they're just trying to grow, survive, keep going. So when you get into that flow, yes, it's uncomfortable, but you're in alignment with life. And then I'm telling you, the growth only happens, like, when I think about what my growth is, I wake up really early. That's growth, because I'm focusing on a morning process. I'm working out, I'm watching my diet, and I'm not, entertaining devices. But outside of those moments, which maybe that's a few hours per day, right, where I'm like, restricting my diet, or I'm training. But all the other moments, like when I'm laying on the couch or whatnot, they're so much more enjoyable than they were back when I was thinking, I wonder when I can pour that beer. And it's like, now I'm yearning again. I'm yearning. So it's like, trust me, the pain of growth is better, people. It's better.
I need to make a confession.
Yeah.
I oftentimes will go to bed thinking I get to wake up in the morning and have a cup of coffee.
Oh, I love coffee too. Okay, coffee doesn't count.
Coffee doesn't
All right.
count. But it's like, oh, when I wake up, I can have coffee.
But you know what? Coffee is like, it gives you that stimulant effect, and there's a lot of like wide ranging studies that say that there are health benefits to coffee. I don't think it's negative. When I say negative with pleasure chasing, it's more around the vices. And the thing with the vice is it's got a downside, right? So alcohol gives you warm tinglies in the moment, but the downside is the hangover and the impact to your health. The yummy food is yummy in the moment, but the downside is you gain weight later, right? So it's
Oh,
like,
you feel sluggish later, or
exactly, you feel just like, yeah.
oh, you have
So
a
it's,
sugar high or a sugar down, or there's a yummy food does a lot of things to you.
it does, it does. And it's like, and so it's just about like removing the things that have the downside. And Candace, the way that I recommend people do this is it's really simple. It's like, just trust your conscience. And so part of my morning routine is something called the regret reflection, where I instruct my clients to just take 3-4 minutes in the morning when you first wake up, when you're quiet with yourself, just ask yourself, what do I regret from yesterday? And I'm telling you, your subconscious will just give you the answers. It will tell you were scrolling on your phone when you should have been working. You ate the extra piece of pizza, you shouldn't have done that. Why'd you pour the third glass of wine? Like, it'll just tell you. And then all you have to do is say, today, I'm going to try and learn from yesterday's mistakes, and I'm not going to make those same mistakes. And as you do this, you will just get more and more downloads, from, I don't know what you want to call it, the universe, God, whatever, guiding you to make better decisions each day. But you've got to have that moment where you really reflect.
A lot of folks who come on this show talk about gratitude practices.
Mm.
And I think the regret reflection is a gratitude practice, because you're grateful for what you're going to go do going forward. You're grateful for what you haven't done yet, right?
Yeah.
You're grateful for
Yeah, I love
for
that.
understanding that this is something that I maybe shouldn't have done as much of. We all have our vices. Mine might be video games. You know?
Moderation, though, that's
Yeah, exactly.
enjoyable, right? It's
Exactly. It
entertainment.
is.
Yeah.
It is. I'd rather have a video game addiction than a alcohol or drug addiction, right?
A
I
thousand
don't,
percent.
but I
Yeah.
don't know if it's an addiction. It's just something I do to unwind. It's enjoyable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But
Um,
that's entertainment. Yeah. I think
but
that's okay.
I love this regret reflection, because it's really important to have one of those, habits where you are, and it is a habit, a, a gratitude habit, regret reflection habit. It is something that resets you, right? And we need to, when your computer isn't working, you restart it. When your phone's not working, you restart it. When you're not working, you need to restart. That's why we need to sleep. And it's why we need to reflect on what we've done in the past and determine that we need to make different choices going forward. So reset.
Well, and let me tie that in with sales. Okay. So one of the things that I teach my sales clients is you want to have a reflection process on your failure, which is kind of the same thing, right? I mean, failure is not, you don't
Failure is
regret it.
so important.
Yeah, but you've got it. Like, failure has the lessons, right? Because when things go our way, we're like, wow, of course, I'm amazing at this. So things went my way. But when you fail and when it hurts, like, what most people do is they go, I'm going to put that in a box. I don't even want to think about it. I'm just going to move on, make the next sales call. Good, do that. But you need to have a period in time where you reflect on that failure so that you can take the lessons that pain is teaching you. How'd you screw up? Why didn't you follow up fast enough? Why didn't you refine your quote when you could sense that there was an issue? Like, you're going to get, again, like the regret reflection, you're going to get clear guidance on the things that you need to do better. And the thing with regret, Candace, is it's not a choice. It's just a feeling. So just trust the feeling. When you ask that question in the morning, it'll whisper to you. It might tell you, Candace, 90 minutes of video games, good. 3 hours, bad, and then you can just be like, all right, tonight I'm going to play 90 minutes. And, you just listen to that voice. It will never steer you wrong. I promise.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you don't know how to lose, you don't know how really, truly good it feels to win. When you
Oh, I
don't
love
know,
that.
when you don't know how to fail, you don't know how really good it feels to succeed.
I
It's
love that.
really important to lose and to fail, because that's where the learning happens.
But, and I know you know this, right? How many people have you talked to that are like, I could never be in sales? Like, all that failure just hurts so bad. People don't want to fail. And it's because I think our school system raised us to feel that failure is bad, right? Get the answers right on the test. But in the real world, failure is your teacher. It's your, professor that is going to teach you how to get better, but you got to take the time to live in the pain, get
Yeah.
those lessons.
I do hear that a lot. Candace, you're so good at sales. I wish I could be as good as you are, or I could never be as good as you in sales. And I don't consider myself a salesperson as much as an educator and a listener. It's about figuring out what the problem is and solving it. So
Bingo.
educate. That's why teachers are so good at sales because they know how to educate.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And they understand how to get something across to the audience, right? To the pupils. And you have to put yourself in their shoes to do that. And I think, for most people, it's a fear of failure. It's a fear of rejection. But if you can learn to embrace it and actually just go, yes, this is like how I grow, then that is going to serve you well. And it's like starting anything, Candace. Like, starting a side hustle of coaching in my 50th year, when I'm an old dog, there's been nothing more exciting than failing forward every single day. And like what I do to promote my business, I should probably mention this to your audience, is I live my program on Instagram every day. So I post every day. I share on my stories every day, the wake up time. I show them myself at the gym. I talk to them about what I'm going through in my sales job and my other areas, because I want them to know that I live the program. I'm not just selling them a dream. I'm selling them the lifestyle that I live. But learning how to do all this stuff as an old dog, like all the Instagram stuff, like that was not natural to me. So it was just failure every single day and discomfort.
I am very curious about this. I stalk my guests so I know what to talk about with them. And I noticed that you have very limited social media presence. Like Instagram is your thing and that's it. And you own it. I
That's
mean,
it.
you obviously very much own Instagram, but why did you decide to just stay in one lane?
Great question. And I'm questioning that. I may branch out into some other areas, but I just, I'm the kind of person that, number one, I leverage coaches myself. One of the reasons I got into coaching is because I've leveraged coaches for many years and it's supercharged my results. Anytime I wanted to get better at something, that was like a rocket fuel to get there faster. And so the coach that I'm working with is specific on Instagram. And so I thought, let me crack this first. Let me learn how to be consistent. Let me learn how to execute on everything that I need to do in that channel. And then I'll expand. So I would say that it's just a phase in the process, Candace.
So you are working with an Instagram coach and that is why you're in Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
In essence, because I got attracted to that person through Instagram. So I thought, if it worked for me, it'll work for my ideal client.
Interesting. YouTube is my lane. I
Oh, I
spend a
love
lot,
YouTube.
if I'm being social, I'm on Facebook, but YouTube is my
Yeah.
lane. That is where I put, if you can find all of my content on YouTube, and including behind the scenes stuff that only clients get access to. I mean, I have been using YouTube for 15 plus years. I think 2008. That's more than
Wow.
15 years.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is just, to me, it is a great place to spend my time because it's evergreen, whereas Instagram goes away, but people find videos from 10 years ago and comment on them. I mean, I just had an interaction yesterday from a video from 2 years ago.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you choose your lane, people. Choose your lane. For
And
my
you know
husband,
what?
go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say for my husband's business, he's a custom furniture maker and an artist, so Pinterest is actually the right lane for his business because that's where people are looking
The
at furniture.
visuals.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it's not Instagram for furniture. It's Pinterest, right? And so it really you need to be in the lane where you're gonna find the clients that you're looking for.
That's it. And I will get into YouTube because I love it as well. Like I'm a premium subscriber. I love consuming content on YouTube. The thing about Instagram that's so interesting is that people do make it a part of their day. So the folks that they follow, and I see this, right? When I go into my story views, it's like the same 60, 70, 100 people are consuming the stuff every single day. And that's, we talked about trust before. This is how trust gets built. They see you walking and talking a program. And what'll happen is someone will ping me after 6 months and they'll say, I'm ready to lose the weight or I'm ready, for this. And it's like, it
Yeah.
took them that long to watch and think about it and decide not to approach me, and then, or maybe inquire and then pull back. But just the daily stream, it chips
Yeah.
away over time. So that's been working for me.
I consumed content from my coach for 2 years before I hired her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a long game.
It's
Patience,
trust.
patience and trust, patience and trust.
And you know what? You probably do the same thing that I do, where you're like, okay, I know this is something that I need to address in my life, but I'm not quite ready yet. I've got a few other things that I'm working on right now, but I'm going to get to that. So you follow, and then that coach or that influence begins to prime you and get you ready. And then when you're ready, that's the logical person to approach for some help, right? So yeah, I love it. I mean, this social stuff to me is, I realize it's a bit of a suck. It pulls us all in. It pulls us out of the world sometimes. But I think the ability to connect with other people. I mean, look, you and I met through this miracle, and I've met so many incredible people. It's just, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, the internet is amazing, and the people who are innovating on the internet. And I'm not sure where you came from. Was it Podmatch?
Yeah, Podmatch, I think.
Okay, so Podmatch is brilliant. If you ever want to be audience, this is for you. If you want to be a guest on podcasts, and you are willing to invest in being on good shows that match your area of expertise, Podmatch is an excellent place to find those shows.
It's incredible.
I get about 90% of my guests from Podmatch, 10% of people I know personally, and or referrals from people I know. And I can, I'll get pitched. I guess for every 2 pitches I get, I accept 1. So I have about a 50% acceptance rate. But it's a one-stop shop to figure out, is this guest a good fit for my audience? Do they have a message that my audience wants to hear? Or have I interviewed 12,000 people who have the same message? And is it time to move on to the next message? One of the reasons I was so happy to talk to you about B2B sales is I haven't had that conversation on this show in a long time. A couple of years maybe. So,
but that's one of the great things about Podmatch too, right? Is that it allows you as a guest, even, like, I'm able to assess these different shows and see which ones do I think maybe there's a kernel of an opportunity there where I could be valuable to this, host's audience. And then I'll reach out and see if they agree. It's no hard feelings if there's not a match there, that's fine. But I found it to be brilliant. I've been on so many podcasts that are right for my message, and I was excited to talk to you as well. Once you said B2B sales, I was like, okay, this is my wheelhouse,
And Podmatch is a pay-to-play platform, platform, but it's worth the money. And
it's worth it.
I don't think it's very expensive either.
No. It's under $50 a month, or $30 a month.
Even, and if you're going to hire somebody to book you on shows, you're going to be paying $100 to $200 per episode.
Exactly. And there's a lot of great shows on Podmatch as well. And the other thing I'd say to people is just reach out to your favorite podcasts. There's no sense in not taking a swing at trying to get on any show that appeals to you. But Podmatch is great because you'll get all sorts of podcasts at different levels. But usually there are people that have done dozens and dozens of episodes, which is great.
And if you have, my show is a little different because I have so many people pitching me all the time. Like, I have 6 months worth of guests queued up. Amazing. Right? But I am a frequent guest on a show called the BizBook Broadcast. I know the podcast host very well, and we have great dynamic together. And I go on her show a lot, and we talk about books, right? And if you find the right show and you vibe with the host, the opportunity for you to collaborate is amazing. So it's worth it to go out. I can't believe we're talking about podcasting. How did that happen? But it is worth it to go out and make those connections and reach out and say, hey, I've been listening to your show for a while. I think that I have a message that your audience would align with, and I would love to be a guest. It is worth it. The worst thing that could happen is they'll say no. And we've already established that failure is good.
Exactly. Say thank you and keep moving.
That's right. Thank you for the opportunity to learn. How can I improve my pitch for next time? Right?
Exactly.
All right. Josh, I can't believe this. We have to wrap up. Can you believe it?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Can you believe it? So this is your moment of gratitude. Josh Flower, for whom or what are you most grateful?
Oh, I am most grateful for the the strength that I was given to really chart out in a new direction, an entrepreneurial direction with coaching, with trying to help other people, despite having a ton of success in my primary profession, Candace, because I could have just kept going in sales, and I enjoy doing both. But something spoke to me, and I don't know what that was, but I'm so grateful that it did, because going down the coaching pathway has been the most rewarding thing. I love helping people with all that I've learned in my life and in my career. So I would invite any of your audience, if they're interested, if they kind of like my message, please follow me on Instagram, joshflower1 on Instagram, and see if you vibe with me. See if you think that I may be able to help you, because I would love to talk about that.
Thanks for tuning in to Gratitude Geek, the podcast for grateful micropreneurs building genuine, lasting relationships with clients, colleagues, and community. Our theme music is track 14 by Rev Brock and Soul Lily. To connect with Josh Flower, head over to the show notes at gratitudegeek.com. This is episode 253. I've been your host, Candace Rodardi. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy, my friends.